How's it going, everyone? This is IFBB Pro Thomas Anderson, and we're here at Olympus Athletic Club here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Just gonna go through some of my favorite exercises that I like to do when it comes to my arm training. Just give you some tips on what I like to do, just to get my arms where they need to be as far as, when it comes to competition time and, also in the off season. Well, with the preacher curl exercise, it's probably one of my favorite bicep exercises to do. I like doing them at the beginning because that's when I'm at my strongest, and it allows me to really focus in and squeeze the bicep, so that I can get the most out of that exercise. I generally try to go pretty heavy, but as it gets closer to around contest time, I like to switch things up, keep the intensity, and not focus so much on the weight itself. Focus more on the repetitions, making sure I get good contractions, and making sure that I can push through the burn as much as I can, so that I can keep that stimulation going. All right, up. Up, down, up, down. My bodybuilding career actually started in 2004. That was when I first started going to the gym. Funny story about that. I remember back when I first started, I used to go to the gym and, I'd always get, teased and laughed at and stuff like that, just because I was the little guy, little guy, 122 pounds, didn't know a thing about the gym, and I stepped foot in there and I just got completely laughed at. But there was one thing that I wanted to make sure of, was that if I wanted to do this, I wanted to make sure that I did it to my fullest potential, and I wasn't going to let, circumstances like that get in my way. So, throughout that whole year, I worked as hard as I could, did as much research as I could, reading all kinds of magazines, Flex magazine, muscular development, things like that to, educate myself, gain knowledge. And within that first year, I probably put on about a good 30 pounds of muscle. And that's, focusing on getting my eating habits down, making sure that I was doing all my training, all my exercises the proper way so that I can get the most out of it. And, focusing on good form, that's one thing that I still preach to this day, is good form is going to carry you a long way when it comes to this sport. And so that's when I started noticing my best results. And from there, it just continued to build up. Oh my God. So right here. With the dips, I also like to do that as a good mass building exercise for my triceps. Gives me a really good pump, and then I can also play with the rep ranges. You know, I like to, especially when it comes to the dips, I like to start out with higher repetitions. You know, just to warm up and get that stimulation. You know, get that fiber activation going, and then as I progress into the the following sets, I go a little bit heavier. You know, just to get that maximum exertion. You know, get that full exhaustion, so I can get the most out of that exercise as well. Awesome. Now, usually when it comes to my arm exercises, I like to switch up between a bicep and a tricep exercise because it allows the muscle groups to get a break as I'm working on the other part of my arm. You know, that way when I go to that particular exercise for that muscle group, I'm not exhausted and I can still push just as hard as I need to. Dumbbell curls, I like to do toward the middle of my exercises. Um, with that particular exercise, I like to focus more on the contractions. It's every now and then it's good to get a good heavy set every now and then, but I like to focus and do more repetitions because I feel that I can get more out of it, by doing higher repetitions for that exercise. So usually I get anywhere between 20 to 25, sometimes 30 repetitions, and I found that works a lot better for me as opposed to going, heavier. Pumped up. Not that much. My first show was back in 2007, July to be exact. It was the 2007 Natural North America Championships up in Romeoville, Illinois. And it was promoted by Mr. John Hanson. I remember I won the novice overall that year. And I specifically remember people coming up to me asking me why I didn't do the open class. Now, considering I wasn't very knowledgeable at this point about bodybuilding, I pretty much just told them that, I didn't know I could do that because from what I researched, the novice class was just for first timers, and that was pretty much the only class they could do. And so they asked me why I couldn't go to open. Well, part of the reason was I couldn't afford it either. So, but I remember there was one guy I was talking to, and I told him that, and he said, "Man, if I had known that, I would have paid for you to do the open class." So, just give you an idea of just kind of the compliments and everything that I had gotten from that show that year. And I think that was where my career really took off. I went on that year to do the Tennessee State back in 2007, back August, I believe. I took second in the lightweight. So at that time, I do believe that qualified me for nationals as well. However, being that I was so young and I didn't know any better, I didn't know that I could go to nationals at that time. So I pretty much just kind of left it at that and just took second place and just left it at that. And then that later on that next month, I did the NGA Night of Champions up in Nashville. And that was when I got my NGA pro card. So that made me a natural pro bodybuilder. And after that, the following year, I did all my shows, won the majority of them. I went on to do the Night of Champions again, in the professional class. Took top 5. So, considering that I hadn't been doing bodybuilding that long, that was actually pretty impressive, going up against 4 other guys that were pretty much at the top of their, the peak of their conditioning and everything. So that says a lot about, someone who breaks into the sport at such young of an age and, not having that much experience. So that said a lot about, my work ethic, especially as an athlete. Continuing on to the year 2009, that was probably my best year. I believe I did about 8 shows that year, of which NPC Nationals was one of them. And sadly enough, I didn't place, but, that was to be expected. I was going up against the top athletes in the country, And then being that I was inexperienced and everything, I pretty much expected, my placing, but one thing that I made sure of was that I didn't let it stop me. I didn't just let it die there. And so I went on to continue to do more shows. Altogether, I'd probably say I did about 25 shows altogether throughout my career. And I pretty much won just about all of them except for a select few. Let's see. In the year 2013, that was probably my shining moment. I had just gotten out of AIT, my initial Army training, and 2 weeks after that, I had gone to do the 2013 NPC Northern Kentucky, of which I took the middleweight class and the overall. And considering the fact that I had just gotten out of my Army training, people were really impressed with that. They would ask me, "You just got done with your training and you had conditioning like that?" It was just one of those things. I made sure that throughout my time, at AIT and through basic training, I wanted to make sure that I stuck to my diet as closely as possible. Especially in AIT, I had a little bit more freedom, so I could, focus more on my training, and make sure that my eating habits were correct so that I could stick to my program. And it really paid off. It really paid off. And so I continued to train hard, for those next 8 months. And then here we are at the 2013 NPC Nationals. And, I take my middleweight class and got my IFBB pro card. And that's where we are today. So I'm really happy with, my career so far. I know I have a lot more ahead of me, considering that I just broke into, the mountaintop of bodybuilding. So, I got my work cut out for me. That's for sure. But I want to make sure that I want to continue to do my best, train as hard as I can, continue to train as an amateur, because that's where I have the most dedication. That's where I'm the most starving for, success. So I want to keep that mentality even throughout my pro career.